What's going on, everybody? Patrick Auger, Matthew Wells here for the Body Lock. Today, we're talking about should the UFC keep the women's featherweight division? So, in the news very recently, just had something tweeted out by Megan Anderson just moments before we started this video. If you haven't seen everything that's going on back and forth, basically Megan on her Twitch stream said that she was no longer under contract with the UFC and the promotion was shuttering the women's 145-pound division. Mark Ramundi then reached out to UFC and the officials came back and said there's no plans for that right now. What Dana's words said this past Saturday about keeping the division if Amanda wants to keep it is still in effect. And so there's been some back and forth on, John Morgan's put something out there about how they're not sure if they're closing it, all of that. And Megan's now just said she fought out the last fight on her contract. That was 6-6. And so it doesn't sound like she'll be back, but the door's not necessarily closed. So we don't know what's going on. There's a lot of things up in the air. UFC might be shuttering women's 145. They might not be. Who knows? The question is, should they? So Matt and I have diametrically opposed views on this. Matt, I'll let you take the floor first. Should the UFC get rid of their 145-pound women's division?
No, they should not. I understand that calling it a division is generous, but they absolutely should keep this thing open just for the sake of Amanda Nunes, if nothing else right now. For every marketing, promotional tool possible, there's nothing bigger than being able to say that you're a champion of two divisions in the UFC right now. It just makes so much sense to keep it open for that reason alone. I think we all agree now that Amanda's going to stick around for at least a little while. She plans to defend 135 next, and it looks like Juliana Pena is going to be that suitor. So why not keep it open, man? You can put her on the poster with two belts over her shoulders, all the promo pictures leading up, all the pre-fight packages. Two division champion Amanda Nunes looking to defend her title again, and blah blah blah, and all this good stuff. If you shutter that, it just hurts all of that. Like, it just goes away. And yeah, there may not be many opportunities for her at 145. I mean, listen, if you go to UFC.com right now and you go to the athletes page and you filter by women's featherweight, there are 8 names there. 2 of which are under Bellator. The third, who knows what she's doing right now. Zara Farron is 0-2 in the UFC. Felicia Spencer has an upcoming fight against the 1-0 Danyelle Wolf. And Leah Letson is 1-0, I believe, in the UFC, and she hasn't fought in like 3 years. And of course, Megan Anderson is in the wind right now. We don't know what's happening with her. So yeah, like I said, calling it a division is generous at best, but you leave it open just in case something happens. Let's say if the PFL ends up folding next year, boom, there's an opportunity right there for setting up a Clarissa Shields fight, because Clarissa Shields been talking about that. You got the opportunity for, who knows, all sorts of things. There could be somebody that pops up. Look, it only takes 1 or 2 fights. Danyelle Wolf, if she beats Felicia Spencer, she's in there just by default. It's like, all right, it's time to feed the lioness again. Here you go, fresh meat. Just leave it open, man. It's a circus, I understand, but you got to leave it open.
All right. Well, I'm glad you at least recognize that, yeah, calling it a division is very, very generous, given how many women are actually contracted on the UFC as featherweight. Here's why, in my opinion, you close it. Right now, to any of the hardcore fans, right, that watch the sport, they watch something like what happened on this past Saturday, and they say, yeah, we pretty much knew this was going to happen. Yeah, we saw 3-2 Megan Anderson, 3-2 in the UFC, get dominated by Amanda Nunes. Who's she going to fight next? 1-0, who then would be 2-0, Danyelle Wolf, if she beats Felicia Spencer. What's going on here? It's a joke. It's not worthy of discussion. I think what you do instead, because you mentioned it hurting Nunes if you shutter the division. Right now, Nunes' popularity isn't getting blown up by performances like last Saturday. Are they impressive? Sure, but they're not raising her stock with the casual crowd or making her, more of a draw or any of that stuff. At least not that we've seen in the numbers, whether it's social media metrics or what we've heard from pay-per-view buys, albeit those can be a little bit off. So when you're looking at this, to me, I think what makes sense is you shutter the division, you have Amanda retire as the featherweight champion, right? And you say, if someone comes along that's worthy, sure, we'll talk about having that belt. But otherwise, she now gets to keep that featherweight belt around her pretty much for the rest of her career. And you don't have to go through these fights where you have, Danyelle Wolf fighting Felicia Spencer and making Amanda Nunes pretty much go up to defend 145 against the winner of that fight, a woman she's already clearly beaten versus what would be a 2-0 fighter, depending on who wins that. And it doesn't hold up 135 either, where there are women scraping and fighting through a lot more competition to get to the top. Right? If I'm a 135 fighter and I want a big payday and I don't care about Amanda Nunes beating me up, why don't I just move to 145 and fight one of the only two people in the division, because then I'm next in line? That's kind of crazy. If you shutter it, you retire it so that then only a worthy contender, quote unquote, makes her go up to 145 and defend it. You at least get some semblance of normalcy, and you don't have these theater fights that are like, okay, we know how good Amanda Nunes is. Great, she gets paid, and someone like Megan gets paid. But does Megan, who did go 3-2 and beat one person, Norma Dumont, in order to get the title shot, does she deserve that payday more than someone like Pena or people that are putting together win streaks in the 135 division? Because what if Nunes gets hurt and then that goes away? Or what if, there's a delay or scheduling issue? For me, it's just not worth the hassle. It's not giving Nunes enough of a promotion boost. I think you retire it, you let Nunes keep the belt and say, yeah, I was the 145 women's champ. And you leave it at that.
Disagree so hard. But yeah, listen, we could also have a situation. Let's say Danyelle Wolf beats Felicia Spencer and is able to knock her out, right? She's a former boxer, went to Olympic trials and everything like that. She's got hands. Obviously, she hasn't quite put it all together yet from her, Dana White Contender Series performance, but she's got everything that the UFC would want. She's a striker. She looks like a model when she's all dolled up. Like, she looks the part, right? It give me Holly Holm vibes is what I'm trying to say. I'm getting Holly Holm vibes from Danyelle Wolf. She has to go out there and obviously take care of business against Felicia Spencer. And when is that? May 22nd. That fight's going down. There's a lot of things that could fall into place to keep this division going with that fight. Who knows? Could you imagine if Danyelle Wolf shows up, just sparks Felicia Spencer with, just some sort of punching combination, ending with the head kick, and just gets on the mic, is like, Amanda Nunes, I'm ready. And boom, what if she gives Amanda Nunes fits on her third professional fight? You talk about adding interest to the division immediately. I'm telling you, it's still going to be shallow as hell. It's still going to be the kiddie pool of all kiddie pools in MMA divisions. But I would like to. I'm trying to think outside the box here. I'm grasping at straws, I know, but there's got to be something that happens here to make this division kick off. I like the idea of Clarissa Shields calling out Amanda Nunes, or saying that that's a possibility in 3 years down the road.
She's in the PFL.
That's why I said 3 years down the road. But that's, again, is Amanda Nunes going to be around 3 years from now? I don't know. So I would love to see that fight happen sooner. But also, again, I want Clarissa. If that is a dream matchup that does come together at some point, I want Clarissa to at least prove to everybody that, hey, I can stuff a takedown, because it would be, Couture James Toney all over again. So
I want Danyelle Wolf to prove that she could stuff a takedown right now, because I don't know how Felicia Spencer doesn't go in there and tap her out in round one. I mean, this is, we've seen boxers come over before and look great on the feet, and then, well, here we go, one takedown and that's it. So, I mean, I don't know, man. I just can't justify it. Let us know in the comments how you feel. Should they keep the UFC women's featherweight division? Should they shutter it? Let us know how you're feeling as fans. Make sure you like that video, subscribe, hit the bell notification if you haven't done that already. And yeah, man, I just, I I can't see it. I don't know. Unless PFL shutters, where are you going to get more people?
I mean, Bellator, try to push some names from Bellator again, but hey, Scott Coker, he has a good relationship, good rapport with his fighters over there, apparently. So it's going to be hard to get them back over to the UFC side of things. And it's, for some reason, everyone keeps bringing up Kat Zingano, like when they talk about Amanda Nunes in 2021, like Juliana Pena, for example. Like, my goodness. She's just not nearly the same fighter. Like, the game has passed her by in a lot of ways, especially if you're talking about Amanda Nunes. You run that fight back today, it's going to look very bad. But Chris Cyborg, obviously, that's a name that's out there that still has a lot of intrigue. A lot of intrigue. I know. I'm just talking about if contracts weren't an issue. I'm just talking about names that are out there in that division. Chris Cyborg is obviously the one that everybody still wants to see. Just run it back. What happens if Cyborg doesn't get clipped in the first minute? Like, I still think that plays out the same, but there's still fights that could be had if contracts were not an issue with promotional things like that. But the UFC is what it is, and it's ironclad. Never going to do a cross promotional thing with anybody. So it just sucks. But then again, at the end of the day, like I said, you go to UFC.com, you see the 2 belts over Amanda Nunes' profile picture. You keep that as long as you can.
I mean, you can still keep the pick, man. You can still keep the pick. I'm just saying.